Hey everybody, this is Matt. I don't really know how to start this. I guess first and foremost, I just kind of want to ask for forgiveness for all of you guys and for myself. Doing this the last 5 years has been a lot of ups and downs. It's been pretty draining. Today's the full moon in Taurus. Taurus happens to be my moon sign, and I just kind of want to be more authentic and real and open with you guys without getting agitated. I've studied this for a really long time. Today I want to talk about the truth about the sacred secretion and Kundalini and all that. I'm hoping that you guys can see this. I've broken it down to be very simple, and as you can see, I have once again given my A+ artistic abilities. But I really just kind of wanted to express, apologies. I think I get really worked up because I see and hear so many horror stories of people who follow other people on social media or whatever, and they get hurt by other people teaching things, and not all of them are accurate, and it leads to a lot of confusion. And studying this as much as we've seen the Crusades, we've seen all these wars, world wars, all throughout history, and all of this pain and suffering that it's created. And I feel it all too well, and I know how my clients feel. I know how the people who've come to me asking and begging for help feel. They feel lost, and then they feel scared. They feel like they're not connecting with God, and that upsets me because everybody can connect with God. And instead of maybe attacking other people or saying, whatever, I think that I'm just going to start being authentic and just teaching my truth from where it comes from for me. So just forgive me if I do get worked up or if I do make jokes. This is just who I am. And if you guys don't like the way that I teach, that's okay. I'm not for everybody, and I'm finally just kind of being okay with that. But I'm a Cancer, for everybody who didn't know. I'm a sun sign Cancer, moon sign Taurus, so very emotional as a man, and it's one of the things that's led me to understanding a lot of this wisdom. But when I see all of the pain and the people who come to me, and I have a lot of them, and I read the comments, I read all your comments, and I see the misinformation that's being out there, and I need to stop being so worked up about that, because that's been around forever. And if I feel really authentically like I have truth, which I feel like I do, then I would just ask that you guys forgive me in understanding that it's been a really long, arduous journey to get here. A lot of people still disagree with me, and I love that. That's okay, because that's how we learn. I just don't want any more pain. I don't want people paying for things that don't work. I don't want people regurgitating information that they don't really know a lot about. And you also have to forgive me because I didn't really get a lot of sleep last night. I'm going to blame the full moon, but it's neither here nor there. It's really irrelevant at this point. So just wanted to kind of say thanks for watching, for everybody who is watching, everybody who's still subscribed. I really do appreciate you guys, and I'm sorry if sometimes I do come off negative, but Jesus himself said, "I don't bring peace but a sword," and I feel like I've struggled to really embody that, but I want to do better, and I want to share more of who I am to other people, and I want to express more openly what I'm really all about. And what I'm really about is the truth. The truth, I think, is what resonates with me the hardest. The truth is what brought me to all this great information that I'm about to teach to you guys. And I really just don't care anymore. I just feel like I don't care what happens. I just want people to know what has worked for me and my clients and what I believe the truth is. So thanks for watching. Kundalini and sacred secretion are not the same things. Kundalini is a Hindu tantric practice, and sacred secretion, Kristos, is a Judeo-Christian, Greco-Roman, Gnostic philosophy that has to deal with the cycles of time. They're two separate things. They're not the same thing. I have called them the same thing in the past, and that was because I did not know all the details. And I had been also in that band of regurgitating, which is, I think, where some of my frustration also comes from too, because I feel like there's been just too much misinformation about this, and I want to set the record straight. So everything in life, if you follow the Hermetic principles, is split into some form of polarity. There's a duality of all things, which means that there's essentially two practices involved. One is the solar equivalent, which is the much more directive masculine. This is where we activate the neurological body. This is something that you can more so feel. On the flip side, the feminine is a much more subtle energy. It is the one that is subliminal. It is the one that is subconscious. It is the one that is more submissive, and it's the one that you don't directly feel. The man is more in line with the sun because of the way that testosterone cycles work. Additionally, I know we have a big contention on the topic of gender, but I think there's a confusion. The penis and the vagina are not the things that make somebody male or female. It's actually the sperm or the eggs, so it would be the testes and the ovaries, essentially. And those are not things that you can replicate. Penis and a vagina can be formed through surgery, and they even did sex change operations, supposedly all the way back in like the Babylonian and Sumerian times, Sodom and Gomorrah type of stuff. There's some contention there. And of course, we all know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, changing a penis or into a vagina or vice versa, you can call yourself whatever you'd like, but at the true essence, it's not a chromosomal thing. A lot of people say XXXY. That's beyond it. It actually has to do with, do you have fully functioning sperm or do you have fully functioning ovaries? There's a reason for this, because we all know that the seminal fluid for the Kundalini sacred secretion process is the thing that people talk about a lot. And they talk about the masculinization. This is a very masculine way of describing the process, to say you need the seminal fluid, to say you need the supercharged sexual aspect. It's not necessarily the case, and here's why. Because the sun gives its seed, it gives its light, its essence to the earth, supposedly to the luminary of the moon. A lot of people contend that. They say that the moon gives off its own light. But either way, the sun gives its light in particles, just like the sperm particles, that feed and enrich the earth. They feed and enrich the soil, the plants. This is Mother Earth. It's Gaia. It's a very feminine aspect. We're all born here. We all come out of the woman. We all came from our mothers. So we come from our fathers directly, and we come from our mothers. We come from mothers directly. And we come from our fathers, I guess, a little more indirectly. But you need both, two to tango, right? Well, the sun provides the nourishing light to the seed, which then hits the earth, or it hits the other objects. It hits us, and you can feel the sun's rays. There's actually some sunlight here. You can feel the sun's rays. You can feel the warmth of the sun, the life that the sun is able to provide. Well, the sun was always seen as very masculine. Now, what else runs alongside with the cycles of the sun is a man's testosterone system. Testosterone peaks in the morning, just the same way that the sun's power peaks in the morning to warm the planet on whichever side or wherever you're at. And then during the nighttime, when the moon comes out, you're more magnetically drawn to it. Now remember, everything is an electromagnetic universe. Your toroidal field in your body, I know this is like some Louvre, A+ style artwork. The toroidal field in your body needs an electromagnetic essence. And again, forgive me, I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep. It needs an electromagnetic essence. So essentially your brain and your genitals are the two masculine, and the heart is the feminine. The heart is the inverted upside down vortex of what the brain and the genitals represent. Now, the brain, Kabbalistically, was always considered the realm of the gods, or God specifically. Why? Because there's 12 cranial nerves, just like we have 12 zodiacal signs. And then it's made up of like 3 parts, 7 parts, whatever. It's also a circle. It's holy. So it's whole, like WHOLY. So you have a whole circle, and then you have the one. So this is your ones and zeros, just the same way that the one is the penile, and the zero is the vaginal. The sperm, which is like this, which is also the symbol for Leo, which I can draw as I'm speaking. The symbol for Leo looks like a little sperm tail. And the symbol for Cancer is like a 69, but it's like an egg or ovaries or breasts. And that is because Cancer is the feminine, which is ruled by the lunar. Leo is the masculine, which is ruled by the solar. So the moonlight, when you look at like a full moon like we have tonight, the moonlight is the thing that brings in your attention like magnetically. You're drawn to the moon, but you don't feel the moonlight. You feel it because in different ways. It's a lot less, a lot more subtle ways, less direct. For example, crime peaks on a full moon, or car crashes, or accidents, or fights, crimes of passion. These things are all heightened during a full moon. Why? Because during a full moon, the moon controls the tides, and we're mostly made out of water. So the moon is always the aspect. It's the secretive, subtle aspect of divine creation that rules over the mechanisms of the unseen, whereas the sun is the more seen. The moon comes out in the nighttime, and the sun is the daytime, so to speak. And of course, a lot of these, when I'm talking male, female, are gender roles, traditional gender roles. But it's still the case, and it's still very important, because we have to be accurate. We have to be truthful, and we have to be honest, right? We can't just be regurgitating what the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and all these people who were men were saying. And when you study other aspects and forms like Brahmacharya, for example, Brahmacharya is a very important practice to the Hindus, to specific groups of yogis who have taught this, especially for females. They teach to activate the Kundalini during the ovulation. So this was like a huge deal when I discovered this and figured this out, where they believed that the ovum, the egg, was the substance that was the equivalent to the solar seed. And that's exactly the case. That is actually the case. So the egg, when it is unused, and the woman during her ovulation is able to, continue. And a lot of women ask me, well, what if you go through menopause? Well, men make a hell of a lot less sperm as they get older too, but they're still able to take in that substance for the greater mitosis cycle of the body. And the longer you maintain your fertility, the longer that you can live. When you have certain operations, like for example a hysterectomy, which my mother had and a few other of my female family members had, it's like their mental abilities decline over time. They start to age faster, and that's because your genitals are one of the three major brains. Like I was mentioning, it's the third energetic point in the body. So the first would be the brain, which the brain is really, if you really look at it, it looks like as if like a penis and a vagina are almost kind of combined, with like the brain stem kind of coming up, and then the corpus callosum almost is like kind of enveloping it, which is what the vagina does. It's an enveloping organ. And so the brain is like the combination of the androgynous, right? And androgens are the root of all hormones. Hormones is Horus moon. So it's sun and moon. Hormones are not, I know people make jokes about that word, but the hormones are actually the sun and the moon. It's Horus moon. So it's the combination of understanding the masculine and feminine. And of course, the androgens are the root. It's like the stem cell of hormones, if you want to kind of think of it that way. It's not exactly the case, but that's kind of the way I'll describe it. So one is much more of a light-based masculine activation. One is much more of a feminine water or liquid-based activation. And that's what the sacred secretion or Kristos process actually is. So I put light and dark here because this one is the thing that we have been kept in the dark on, and this is the thing that that the women have been attacked on the most, is their fertility cycle all throughout the last, especially 40 years. Now, there was a man named Dr. Eugene Yonash, and he discovered that when women are born, the phase of the moon that they're born in is very, very, very important for their healing cycles, especially for their ovulation and menstruation. So he discovered a link between the lunar phases of a female's birth along with her fertility cycles. This was not the case for men. I have to point that out. That's really, really important. Sometimes we have to look at the fact that he did try to do this on men, and it was not the case, obviously, where there was Well, there's no ovulation or menstruation for men. That's again where the things are inverted here. Because the woman is the woman, her cycle is exposed. And because the man is the man, and it's all inverted, his cycle is hidden. You see? So the men actually learned about their sacred secretion because they observed the women. And then they wrote about it. But what they maybe didn't, because things have been so masculinely dominated, the female aspects of these things have been categorically kind of removed. And you do have a lot of women who write about it in like the 1900s, but the early 1900s, you know, Blavatsky and Fillmore and all that, Manly P. Hall and Thomas Burgoyne and all these people who were so intelligent and wise, we still were missing a lot of points. And so I'd love for somebody, if you have any valuable information that's not just purely anecdotal, because I have plenty of anecdotal evidence, but I need more scientific evidence that would prove that the woman's cycle is in kin with the masculine. Because, and what I mean by that is the timing. So let me go back a little bit here. The whole purpose of this sacred secretion process is to track, or this is what most people are saying today, is not what I'm necessarily saying. For everybody, they're claiming track where the sun is in, or where the moon is in your sun sign. So what that means is if you were born in April and you're in Aries, when the moon goes into Aries, this would activate for you. But that's only for the men. And let me detail as to why that is. Because for the men, they're ruled by the sun. So you have to look at where the sun was placed when they were born. But for the women, it's all lunar activity. It's all lunar activity. That is why their solar activation during ovulation leads to a child. Okay, so I don't know if that makes perfect sense, but everything's an inversion and everything has to equate in some way. The woman's ovulation aligned with a solar activation leads to an external child because she is the woman, and so her inversion will be direct and external. Whereas for the man, his lunar activation, understanding the sacred secretion process, leads to him creating what the Chinese would call the inner nadon, which is the inner awakening of the inner child, which is very akin and similar to the Kristos or sacred secretion process. And that is spelled Neidan. You can look up the nadon, you'll find pictures of like Chinese sages, and they're opening up their sternum here, and here's the child. Now, why is it all here? Well, it's the center point of mass, for one. It's the center point of gravity, for one, in the body. It's your house of bread. Oh, this one doesn't work. It's your house of bread, Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. So if you take a look at the human body, here's the Big Bang where, you had that big explosion of light. This is where God's domain is, in the inner thalamus with the pineal gland, the point within the circle. Okay? But the head is a reflection of the body. This is the masculine counterpart, and this is the feminine counterpart. Okay? This is, again, another reason why the wise sages, when they came up with all this stuff, they were like, women are below us and blah, blah, blah. No. The women support the men, and the men support the women. It's a symbiotic relationship. That's what God has with us. Okay? So here's our world. Here's our realm. Why? Well, here is Virgo. And Virgo, according to NASA, we live in the Virgo supercluster. So if you take this as the Big Bang, right, I'll put BB, Big Bang, and this is where everything starts, and then it bleeds into what? It bleeds into the rib cage with the heart and all of this like crap of like organs. It's like a mess. It's like just a jumbled jargon of like a bunch of different organs and stuff. Well, Kabbalistically, all these upper organs here, and even the lower ones too, have to deal with the planets. Like the liver is Jupiter, or the heart is the sun, or the spleen is the moon. And so, the spleen was a very important aspect to the sacred secretion. The spleen sits like right next to the heart, just like the sun and the moon. And then the rib cage is also ruled by the moon as well. There's 12 ribs, just like the moon goes in each one of the 12 zodiacal signs. There's 12 ribs and there's 12 cranial nerves. So essentially, look, you have two eyes, right? You have two eyes, you have a nose, and you have a mouth. Well, you've got the penis, you've got the vagina, and then you've got the testicles, or on the inside, because it's hidden, you have the ovaries. So the mouth is an inverted vagina, the nose is an inverted penis, and the eyes are the inverted testicles or ovaries. And that's why also genital hair and facial hair feel very similar, coarse, rough, right? It's because if you take this, you flip it upside down and you stamp it down here, congratulations, you've got the person. God sends his only son as a reflection. But we as people live in this realm down here, and you'll see that with a lot of esoteric artwork. This is like where all the fire is. You know, it's like the broiling or the alchemy or the chemistry. This is supposed to be where we live subconsciously so that we can live consciously within the brain and the heart connection. But we need to eat and have our sexual desires and all that well maintained, because this has to churn and regulate just like we on this plane of existence have to churn and regulate. Now, there's a butthole. That's basically you dying and going to hell. Or sacred secretion process, if you become Christ-like and you become a high vibrational frequency, you'll go up into the brain. And that's essentially the entire aspect. So when people tell you as well, Jesus Christ wasn't a real person, he absolutely was. He absolutely was a real person, because he had to be the physical embodiment of this process. You see, the cycles of time, we have the precession of the equinox. Oh my God, I'm so bad at art. Here's Aries and here's Pisces. No, it's this way. There we go. So where we were when Jesus was born was right between Aries and Pisces. It's right on that, right there where everything starts. It was a reset of time. It was an alignment of all of the planets and all of the astrological things where all the channels lined up. And God had his own sacred secretion process. And the 3 days of God's God's process would have been the 33 years of Jesus's birth and life and death. So it's all interconnected. That's the thing that a lot of people are really lacking here, and they're miscommunicating with all this. And that's okay. I just want to educate, because I feel bad that a lot of people don't know this stuff. So, and that's all right too. That's okay if people don't know this stuff. It's extremely complicated, as you can see, but I don't want people to keep misconstruing and charging people money and stuff if it's just going to cause more confusion. So essentially, the way that this works is, if you're a woman, you want to do your sacred secretion processes during your week of ovulation. That is why if you give in to the desires, you'll end up having a physical child, not an internal child. And a lot of women also say, well, no, I mean, the egg gets used, or it becomes the mucus plug and it becomes your menstrual lining and blah, blah, blah. That's a half-truth that you've been sold. It's not exactly the full necessary truth. There's substances in the eggs. I'm not exactly sure what happens after menopause, to be direct, but I would guarantee that those eggs don't just kind of sit there in that sac forever. I'm assuming that maybe there's some kind of a process where the ovaries start to like gestate or digest some of the elements, because those eggs are very, very dense in the needed substance in order for the sperm to grow into a person, right? So the sperm is magnetically pulled to the egg. So you have the egg, and then you have all the little sperms, and they're all trying to go to the egg. Well, it's the same way with the sun's rays hitting the earth. It's the same thing. And it's also the same thing of you directing the energy flow from your body down here, from these eggs and seeds, up into this area, the land of milk and honey, the point within the circle. And as we said, the brain is a reflection of the body. What does that mean? 12 ribs, 12 cranial nerves, the inner thalamus, you have the chamber of the heart. This is a pump, this is a pump, and these two communicate. So when the heart pumps, if you don't know, the brain pumps too. It's very light, you don't really feel it, but if you've ever had a pounding headache that's like in rhythm with your heartbeat, that's actually what you're feeling. You're feeling the, whether it's too much or too little cerebrospinal fluid as a cushion, and your brain is like hurting itself. But that's because it's being flexed by the heart. So, yeah, let's see what else. Jesus had to come between Aries and Pisces, because right between there is Virgo and Libra. Okay, and Virgo and Libra is where a lot of the Jewish faith have their main holidays, like right around September 21st, right around the start of Libra season, the end of Virgo season. And so this line, this is like why they have the Western Wall. This is the Eve aspect of it. This is the Adam aspect of it, Adam Kadmon. And so Jesus coming in at that point in history at year 0, where the age of Aries shifted into the age of Pisces, because remember, this is the 24,000 year-long precession of the equinox. Every 2,000 years there's a shift. Well, basically what I'm trying to tell you is Aries is the start, right? And Pisces is the end. Well, this is God's sacred secretion, because that would have been when he was born. So Jesus came and was the divine reflection of that. And where did he show up? Like I was detailing in my video on the secrets of the world, he showed up in the Middle East. And it's not just the middle. They call it the Middle East. They don't call it the Middle West. Why do you think they call it the Middle East? Because it's the right-hand side. It's the right-hand side, the right-hand brain. I think that's probably where I'll stop. There's a lot of really intriguing and interesting stuff. Oh, this is a mess. This is just a mess. But it's fun, you know? And I'm not going to get agitated anymore. And I just really wanted to apologize to everybody, because I know that I get angry and I get upset sometimes. But when you see it from my perspective, you'll understand that everybody else they're doing their own thing, and that's okay. That's okay. When you see it from this perspective, I'm hoping that it makes a little bit more sense. I'm just trying to share what I've learned over the many years of applying the wisdom. So thank you guys, just seriously, for all of your support. And please spread awareness, spread the video around, because I just don't want any more pain or misinformation out there. I love you guys. I really do. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for all that you do for me. I just thank God for all of the people in my life that are here to learn and grow. So I love you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good weekend.